Here's the best thing. I actually ended up reading 13 books. Yes, you heard that right. 13 books in April, which is still blowing my mind, because if you all have been subscribed to my channel, you know that I have been in a reading slump since the start of the year, and I've been reading an average of 2 to 4 books a month, and 12, 13, 15 books has been my usual reading count for the month prior to the reading slump setting in. So I'm really happy to discover that I'm finally out of that reading slump. I participated in the Owls in April. I wanted to read all 12 books for my Owls, but I ended up reading only 9 books out of the 12 for my Owls. But I'm still actually pretty happy, because 9 out of 12 is pretty good. So yeah, yay, 13 books in April. Let me get started on my wrap up then. We'll start with the very first book I read in April, which is, yes, Priory of the Orange Tree by Samantha Shannon. This is a book that is in itself a story about a group of people coming together to defeat an ancient evil that has been buried for about a millennia and has a reason again to terrorize the world. And in this world, though, there have been separation, there have been years of religious intolerance, there has been a misunderstanding of the difference between the wyverns who bring death and fire and destruction, and the dragons who are the companions of those people living in the east. And even in the same world, you have a young queen who is being forced to marry, who has someone who is clearly moving pieces on the board to manipulate her and to threaten her. And you have this lady in waiting who turns out to be more than a lady in waiting, because she does have powers and she's been sworn to protect this queen. And then there's love that blossoms. So you have dragons, you have witches, you have a queer queen. This book checks so many boxes for me. When I was starting it, word was that, oh, Priory of the Orange Tree is very difficult to get into. But from the very first, like when we were 25 pages in and Eve dropped down and cleanly killed off the assassin that was trying to kill Sabran, I knew I was going to be in love. And then you have Tane, the girl who rose from humble beginnings, the orphan child who basically rose to become a dragon rider. I love the complexities of these characters. They are not all nice, they are not all perfect. They are each in their own way selfish. Some of them do want to fulfill what it is that they want to do. And then you have someone like Sabran, who has blinded herself to the world around her and who is pampered and spoiled. So none of these characters, even Nicholas Roos is it's the definition of an opportunistic, self-serving jerk. But then when you unravel his story and you unravel what is at the heart of his grief, like, I actually did enjoy it. I did enjoy every moment of this book, except for the ending. I think that even though it was that this world gave me magic and gave me dragons and gave me women who can kill and gave me amazing queens who basically rise up and take their power, that gave me orphan girls who grew up to become dragon riders, you know, that would basically take on the element itself in order to save those that are dear to them. Even though this book gave me all of that, I do think that the ending was very rushed. I think that the battle scene we got at the end of this book, just things resolved too quickly. We had been building up to this moment and it was sorted out in like 5 minutes, which I had a problem with. I also had a problem, there was a bit at the end when Nicholas comes and admits to, you know, foul play, and I felt it was very ingenuous to his character, because leading to that moment, we were in his head, so we would have had an idea of where the thought was going to, but it just seemed like Samantha Shannon wanted to do a quick resolution of that part of the plot and just basically pulled Nicholas' sudden change of heart, because it was very sudden and we did not see him arrive at that point. So I think that my problem was that Nicholas's story arc ended too quickly. I think that the final battle we're leading to ended too quickly, and I know this is meant to be a standalone, which is making me very concerned, because there were actually some loose threads that was left in this book. I did hear though that there would be a follow-up novel, probably following like a different set of characters. I don't mind. I just hope that the follow-up novel does resolve the threads that were left at the end of this. But I did enjoy this. It was magical. It was amazing. She's a thick girl. Like, it's a big book, but I devoured this in like 3 days because I could not put it down. I needed to know where the story was going. I needed to know where these characters would be at the end, and that was just it was an amazing story told and I enjoyed it. So I gave this a 4.5 stars after I was done. Not a full 5 stars, but it was a very, very interesting, enjoyable read. Next, I read City of Lost Souls by Cassandra Clare. I did pick up my reading of this Shadowhunters world with this book. This I started last year and I never got the chance to finish because I just got bored and I just got tired. But I'm not gonna lie, when I picked it up again, I think I was in a better headspace and I was in a better mood to actually did enjoy and grasp the story, and I did enjoy it. I definitely preferred it to City of Fallen Angels. I think that a lot of characters that were did wrong in that book, their stories and their arcs were rectified. For example, primarily Simon Lewis. I preferred him in this book, and I did appreciate exactly the evolution of his relationship with Isabel. It had a more organic feel. I think Isabel was one of the stars of this book for me. We're able to see her vulnerable, we're able to see exactly what made her her, and she is one of my favorite characters in the series. So I did enjoy seeing that part of her, that aspect of her, that unraveling of that layer, that vulnerability beneath the surface of Isabel Lightwood. I loved that. I enjoyed that. I would say though that we still had Jordan in this, and his relationship with I'm sorry, I can't stand abusers seemingly getting together with their abuse victims, you know, in a way, even if it is justified, especially because of the way in which you could see that there were so many things unresolved in their relationship that still carry through with this. And speaking of relationship, Alec and Magnus Bane, I would always state, is one of my favorite characters of all time. I relate so deeply with him. He's basically one of the characters that saved my life, so I would always have a special, you always hold a special place in my heart. And seeing the unraveling of his relationship with Alec, understanding the fact that, you know, it's a logical thing when you're with a warlock who is centuries years old, who has this amount of history that is seemingly not letting you see and know, then yes, I can understand that. What I cannot justify was Alex's decision to consult with Camille, and is, for a brief moment of time, his consideration of what she was asking, what she was offering him. I just could not get that. Like, Alec Lightwood, I wanted to enter this book and shake him so hard. Another character I wanted to shake so hard, definitely Clary Frey. Like, oh my god, every single time I think that this girl is smart, she goes and makes several stupid decisions in rapid succession, and I'm just shaking my head because I'm like, this girl, what on earth is wrong with you? I appreciate just how loyal she is to the people she loves. I love how she will go to the ends of the earth in order to save them, but sometimes I just wish she just had a little bit more smart and a little bit more cunning and actually took the time to think things through, because some of the things that happened in this book would have been easily avoided if Clary had just taken a moment to think and consult with people who are way more intelligent than she is, because this girl is dumb. But I did enjoy, I love the intricacy of the bond, the way in which Cassandra Clare wrote the bond between Jace and Sebastian, and how it all played out in the story. It was actually done really well. For someone that had watched the show and knew how things were going to eventually end, even though the show did take a lot of liberties, I still found myself holding my breath and waiting to see how the story would be told. And I think that speaks a lot to Cassandra Clare's writing, if it is that someone who is aware of how the story would unfold is still so breathless and seeing it unravel and basically seeing it happen across page. I did give this 3 stars, so yes, infinitely better than City of Fallen Angels, but I definitely did not think it beat City of Glass. You know, that book was epic. That book was good. That was a great finale for like the first set of trilogy. So yeah, City of Lost Souls, 3 stars, enjoyable read. I was still annoyed with Clary, really annoyed with that girl. And then the City of Fallen Angel, also by Cassandra Clare. Cassandra Clare, there's just this thing about the way Cassandra Clare writes finales of her books. Like, she has this way of tying up all these threads that she's left open at the start of the book and just having them fit so nicely and precisely and so well done, and so many twists and turns, and you're like gaping and you're like, oh my god, of course she's going to make reference to this thing that she has set up in this book and bring them in here. Like, it's so good, so good. I'm not sure though if I actually prefer this finale. Like, I remember the finale for City of Glass, right, was such a punch in the gut. The thing I loved about City of Heavenly Fire was that we were getting so many perspectives, and we were also introduced to a family I think would be my favorite in the entirety of the Shadowhunters universe, and that is the Blackthorns. I loved seeing them. I loved meeting them for the first time. I loved seeing their family dynamic. I was just in awe and I was just amazed. I was just like, oh my god, I love this family. I want to know more about this family. I want to know them intimately. I want to know exactly what makes them tick while they are who they are, how they work as a unit, how they are as individuals. Like, she set the seeds for the next series in this book, and to me, I think she did it well, really well. So this had multiple perspectives. We were following the Blackthorns, we're following Simon, we're following Isabel, we're following Clary, we're following Jace, you know, we're following the Fairy Queen, we were following Maya. So like, there were so many characters in this book, in this finale, that I think was what elevated the story. But as a finale, as the way in which, you know, the conclusion of a series, I think the City of Glass was a more explosive conclusion, just because Cassandra Clare kind of did wrap things up with the finale. She didn't do it as fast as what happened in the Priory of the Orange Tree. Like, that one was just like basic 2-3 pages of a final battle and we're done. Like, no, she put in more effort with this. But I think the City of Glass had more punch as a finale. But I enjoyed the multiple characters, you know, that were brought into City of Heavenly Fire. I enjoyed it. I could not put this down. I binged this in a day. I was just like, oh my god, I'm so shooketh. I need to know what happens with these characters. I need to see where they end up, and I was really satisfied with where they ended off. Of course, the Shadowhunters unit as a whole is still hypocritical and still annoying and still not aware of the fact that they cannot be so outraged. You know how many of our people were killed? And I'm like, yes, but it was one of your own that basically did establish this. And also, if it is that every downworlder decided that they were going to act out against the Clave, against Shadowhunters, because of the amount of people that they've killed, oh my god, there will be no Shadowhunters standing. So once again, I was just like, I hate Shadowhunters, like the unit, the self-righteous, hypocritical, self-judging unit that they are as a group. I like individuals among them, but the entirety of the race, they just annoy me so much. So I did enjoy this. I think that Jonathan Morgenstern, I think Jonathan is a way better villain than Valentine. He's way smarter, he's way more cunning. He also knows how to create alliances and set things right. Like, he does play the villain game well, and also you can actually I understand why he acted the way he did. He still does I still hate him, but you know, I think that his motivations were more clearer cut than Valentine's self-righteous spiel, that one was busy spewing all over the place. And once again, like I said, Jonathan was way smarter. I did have a problem though with the everything is ascribed to demon blood. That's the reason why it turned out. I would rather the narrative had been like, oh, he was tortured and it was because of the way he was raised, because there are so many other downworlders that have demon blood that did not turn out as nasty as Jonathan did. So I think it does them a disservice for us to just generalize and be like, it's the demon blood in him that made him turn out the way he was. But I did enjoy this. I gave this 4.5 stars. I definitely loved it. Like, it was alright. So yeah, 4.5 stars. I enjoyed it. Next, I read Clockwork Princess by Cassandra Clare again. Yes, I was on a Cassandra Clare roll this month. This is the finale of the Infernal Devices series, and I'm going to say this was my favorite book in the series. I think that once again, this speaks to just how well and how good and how amazing Cassandra Clare can make a finale of the series. It was in this book that I finally, for a little bit, just kind of relented on the fact that, you know what, William Erondale might just be okay. I don't think he's still the best thing out there, but I can be like, okay, I can see, but Jem Castex, like, goddamn. I remember for so long I kept saying that I was not really connecting with the Infernal Devices. Like, I admit that writing wise, Cassandra Clare there's more technicality to the way in which she wrote the Infernal Devices. The Infernal Devices, if we're looking at writing, if we're looking at the scale, if we're looking at the expertise, I would say the Infernal Devices was written better. But I would say that, I had more of a connection to the Mortal Instrument, and I just felt that there was just something clinical about the Infernal Devices that I just could not connect with. And that was what I was telling everybody that asked and those that did not ask, until I got to Clockwork Princess, and I was blown away. There was a part, the minute it is that Jem's fate was sealed in this book, it was waterworks for me all the way to the very end. I just enjoyed it. I think another reason why I loved this finale was also because you could finally see Tessa Gray come into her power, finally accept the fact that she does have power. Now she understands the limits. Now she understands what she can do. There was this really, really clever escape that she did with Mrs. Black. I was just I was in awe. She almost pulled it off, and I was like, Tessa, you can think on your feet, you're amazing. So I think that by this book she was more familiar with who she was as a warlock. She had accepted the skills she was good at, and she was putting them to good use. And there's just something about her being aware of who she is and being comfortable in that was just very satisfying in this. The only problem is, once again, there was this rushed factor with the finale, with the wrapping up of this thing. Please, I don't know why Cassandra Clare tells such great stories and then she just wrapped things up so quickly in the finale. I wanted more. I wanted it stretched out, but I did enjoy this book. Jem Castex would always be my baby. There were, of course, once again, the consequences were not so necessarily high with this book, but I did enjoy it, and I did feel a bit sad for Jessamine, which if you had told me, I would not have believed it. And I know that Cassandra Clare does have this habit of pairing up all her characters, which did happen in this book, but I did not mind. I did not mind the excessive pairing. What I did mind was the fact that we did not get a polyamorous pairing, because I'm telling you, this love triangle is epic and would have been even more epic if there had just been a polyamorous relationship. But what we got was still good. The ideal, the A-class ultimate would have been a polyamorous relationship, but what we got was good. The epilogue, I think this is one of my favorite epilogues. This book contains one of my favorite epilogues of all time. The epilogue of this book, hands down, is one of the best, one of the most amazing, one of the most mind-blowing epilogues I've ever read. I laughed, I cried, I chuckled, I sobbed, I was broken, I was put together. This was an epilogue to beat all epilogues. I am still in awe that Cassandra Clare fed us with this epilogue. Wowzers. So I enjoyed this. I gave this a 4.5 stars. Loved it, although I rounded it off to 5 stars on Goodreads, because I might go back later and change this to 5 stars, but I just, oh my god, absolutely frolicking right. Next, I read the Bane Chronicles by Cassandra Clare, Sarah Rees Brennan, and Maureen Johnson. This is a compilation, a novella bind-up of different stories that basically chronicle the life and experiences and relationships and love of Magnus Bane. I already established earlier in this wrap-up that Magnus Bane is one of my favorite characters of all time, and I know a lot of people who are Shadowhunters fans have not read this bind-up. I love novellas. I love short stories. I think that they are a tiny little glimpse into a whole story of a person or a character, and I think that they are more representative of how life is for us. Our lives happen in clips of activity or experiences, and if there was someone looking in from the outside into our world, into our lives, that is exactly how they are going to grasp it. They're going to look at this experience and then move on to something else. And I think that is one thing that novellas are able to capture, and I do enjoy when they do that. And in this, oh my god, once again, it's a bind up of stories about Magnus Bane. I enjoyed this. I gave this a 5 stars. I loved it. I loved every moment of it. I love being able to see funny, irreverent Magnus, who was in Peru and was just going on having all these adventures. And even though we still eventually do not know why it was banned for Peru, I believe that was not the essence of that story. That story was just to show us that he was funny and playful, and Ragnarfell tolerated him, and his friends recognized the fact that he can be so silly and so irreverent even though he's so old. And I enjoyed seeing that part of him. I enjoyed seeing him fall in love with a courtier and decide to rescue a queen because of that moment of attraction. I love the fact that he has such a heart that he would see the Shadowhunter and feel so sad because the Shadowhunter had to be stripped of his marks because the Shadowhunter found love. I love being able to see a glimpse of James Arundel that we got in this book, because yeah, definitely going to be one of my favorite characters, that James Arundel. I loved seeing all these bits of Magnus. I love being able to see Camille through his eyes, and the pain he had to feel in that novella of the fall of the Hotel du Mont, seeing this person that has owned his heart for centuries, seeing her brought so low, that aching, that jagged piece of pain that he had to call Katerina over to help him lose. Like, I just Magnus Bane is an enigma. Magnus Bane is amazing. Magnus Bane deserves all the love. And my favorite short story in this was definitely Saving Rafael Santiago. Being able to see Magnus in that element and seeing Raphael in that element as well, and these two characters, and seeing just their history and the mutual respect that they have for each other, it further makes Raphael's sacrifice in City of Heavenly Fire just hit even more, because this was just so good, so good. So I gave this a 5 stars. Absolutely loved it. Cannot wait to reread it. Definitely one of my favorite books in the Shadowhunters universe. Loved it. Next, I read Tales from the Shadowhunters Academy, also by Cassandra Clare, Sarah Reese Brennan, Maureen Johnson, and Robin Wasserman. This basically is a novella bind-up that basically follow Simon's story as he trains to become a Shadowhunter, and I love this. I love this so much, but I also think it's because this bind-up was not just about Simon. This bind-up was basically about all these other characters. You know, we got to hear a bit of Katerina's story. She gave us her history. She told us that secret that she has held close to her heart, that few people know about her, about the clave rules that she's broken. You know, we got a bit of the Blackthorns, and you all know how much I love the Blackthorns, so every time they show up, it makes me giddy, it makes me happy. Unfortunately, we did get a bit of Robert Lightwood. You could see how enigmatic Valentine was and how bad things got, you know, with regards to the members of the circle blindly following him, and you could see exactly what happens when it is that even though you're not comfortable with something, you rather just like let go and just let it happen, like how devastating that can be. Of course, we also saw how bigoted he was, you know, in the past, and in a way you get exactly why his relationship with Alec turned out the way it did. Not like it's justifying anything, but you get it. You also get more of Isabel, more of her vulnerability, and I also liked to see Simon slowly become the Simon that we knew. Like, I know he didn't have his memories, spoiler alert. I know he didn't have his memory at this point, and he was, you know, training to become a Shadowhunter. But I think that it just speaks to who he is as a person, that even without his memories, he slowly made his way to the Simon Lewis we knew and loved before he lost it at the end of City of Heavenly Fire. So I did enjoy this. I think I enjoyed it more because, like I said, of all the other people that showed up, like, oh my god, Tessa Gray showed up in the story, and then we got a bit, we learned more about James Arundel and Matthew Fairchild, and oh my god, I'm just and Thomas and Christopher Lightwood. Like, yeah, I enjoyed this bind-up. I enjoyed it to a T. I gave it a 4.5 stars. There were some parts that were a bit iffy. I did remove the 5-star because I think that what happened at the end with George was kind of uncalled for, so I did lose that extra 0.5 stars. But all in all, I enjoyed this bind-up. I already stated my weakness and my love for novellas, so yeah, I did enjoy this. And then I read the Shadowhunters Codex by Cassandra Clare and Joshua Lewis. I'm certain, but it's like, what the hell, because I know that there are a lot of Shadowhunter fans that have not read the Shadowhunters Codex, but I keep stating on my channel that your girl is a big term nerd. I love encyclopedias. I used to read them religiously as a kid. Just give me all those things, they make me happy. So this is a manual for the world that has been created. That is my kind of jam. I love this so much. I gave it 5 stars. I loved it to bits. I loved being able to understand more of Shadowhunter history. I loved seeing their bestiary. I loved seeing them break things down. Oh my god, the origin story of Lilith in this book, definitely all the power, exactly how she created a rip in space and let in the demons, and that is why Shadowhunters are currently battling it, and the numbers keep increasing because clearly that crack is spreading. I enjoyed reading that. I also particularly love the fact what made this, because if it was just that, I probably would have given like a 4 stars. What gave it that extra 5 stars was the fact that this was an encyclopedia. This was like a manual, a brand manual, and then you could legitimately see like Clary's notes in the margins, and then Simon's notes, like following her notes, and then she's responding to what Simon is saying in pages of her notebook, and then like Jace is over there like also writing notes in the margins like that. That was what gave it the extra 1 star for me. It was a riot. I loved this as as much as for the content as it is for the notes. The notes were freaking funny, like really, really hilarious. It was a hoot, it was a riot. I loved it. I loved it. I loved it. I particularly love the fact that, you know the part of when you're reading something and you have objections, like strong objections to it, and you write it down. Like seeing Clary like write objections when it comes to the downwarder segment of this book, and then seeing her saying like, oh, she consulted with Luke and Luke was just pacing out saying bullshit, and then Simon will be like, oh, he consulted with Jordan, and Jordan is like, this is all a lie, and then they consulted with Magnus, and Magnus is like, nope, that was not how it happened. I love that. I love the fact that they were taking this apart. Like we were analyzing just the level of lying and careful selection of events, of narration of events that the Clave does in this book. Enjoyed it, absolutely enjoyed it. So like I said, 5 stars. I also read Odd Spirits by S.T. Gibson. This is a short novella. It's like barely 70 pages and basically follows the love story, or the marriage, of a chaos witch and a ceremonial magician, and the toll that secrets can take on a marriage. They have a malevolent spirit in their house, and it's all about basically them getting rid of that spirit and also getting rid of all the other things that came as a result of it or was born from it. I enjoyed that. I enjoyed the fact that this was an in-depth study in what makes a marriage work, and the whole fact that honestly, human beings, we have our fears, we have our insecurities. The whole point of being in a relationship is being honest with one another. I also love the witchy undertones. Like this was just beautifully witchy. You could tell like S.T. Gibson, she's either Wiccan or she knows someone who is practicing, because she dealt with this subject matter with so much respect and care and knowledge, and it was such a beautiful short story. I was smiling. I felt the love of the moment. And being able to like have me intrigued, have us wondering, okay, what is the secret, trying to puzzle exactly what the origin of this whole thing is, who exactly is responsible for this malevolent spirit taking up residence in their household. Like I found it fascinating. I also love the fact that this book also does bring about conversation, about bisexuals, the constant belief, especially when it is that people are partnered with a bisexual partner, the worry of, oh, they are not enough, what if they go on to this other gender. Like I always get annoyed when partners say that thing, when like people have that conversation, but I do know that it's a conversation that should be had, and I do think that S.T. Gibson did handle it well, so kudos to her on that. But I enjoyed it, so I gave this a 4 stars. It's a novella, it's short, it's sweet, it finishes very quickly, but it was totally worth it, and I cannot wait to read, I think it's Rubber Girl, that's the second book that S.T. Gibson wrote. I cannot wait to read it, so yeah, 4 stars. Then I read The Magicians by Lev Grossman. This is the first book in the Magicians trilogy. I've had this book on my TBR for a while because I did watch the Magicians TV show and I loved it right up until the end of season 4, when a devastating decision just took me out of the show. I did watch season 5 and the series has ended with season 5, but oh my god, the end of that season 4, I just felt like it still breaks me. So I picked up the book hoping that it will get better. Okay, to understand this, right, this book is all about 17-year-old Quentin Coldwater, and who is smart and brilliant and is planning on going to university, but then is enrolled to join in this magical school called Breakbills, where they basically teach the brightest minds how to do magic, right? And Quentin is depressed, he's suffering from depression. I would state that one good thing about this book was just how well Lev Grossman depicted depression and that constant need of finding something that would make you happy, and that's never-ending circle of disappointment when you realize that the one thing you thought was going to make you happy never does. So I would give kudos to Lev Grossman on being able to capture that. What I would state though is that I hated Quentin Coldwater. I felt it was a self-entitled brat with a chip on his shoulder, a refusal to take responsibility for his actions, a belief that the world owes him something, and that is consistently how he goes through the world, and it just annoys me. And the fact that we were in his head for the entirety of this book, I wanted to scream. This book took me 8 days to read because every time I had to put it down because I just got so frustrated and so angry, and I wanted to enter this book and strangle this boy. Like I really wanted to strangle him so badly. I could not stand it. I also felt there was just this constant sexualizing thing that he did. I understand he's a 17-year-old boy with hormones, but he was still doing this even like after they graduated break bills, and break bills is 5 years, of course. He skipped a year, so 4 years. So at least as at when he was still sexualizing, he was 21. As at when he was still acting like such an entitled brat, he was 21. As at when we established the fact that he was a shitty boyfriend and legitimately believed that his girlfriend should just get over it, he was 21. So there were so many things that he did that I just could not stand. And I have gone on forums, I've seen some of my concerns replicated, and every time someone tells me that, oh, it's because he's young, I'm like, yeah, but at the end of this book he was 21 and he was still so much of he just kept annoying me. He never learned, he never did better, he never became a better person. I understand the fact that, you know, some human beings, like, I understand that some people are naturally selfish, and I understand that not everybody is a good person, and I don't even mind being in the head of such a character. What I cannot stand is the fact that Quentin Coldwater legitimately paints himself as a nice guy, as a good guy, and would not let, and does not see himself for what he actually is. And that was just what irked me a lot in this book. I felt that so many of the things that happened were his fault, and he never did actually take ownership of that. I did hear that it gets better in the other books in the series, so I'm just hoping that, you know, it gets better later, because right now I'm just really offended and I'm just so annoyed. Maybe I might look fondly on him later if in the other books he does become a better person, but the Quentin Coldwater we meet in The Magicians is trash. A lot of his friends that we meet in The Magicians are trash. The only person that I actually did like was Julia, and we did not get enough of her, you know, in this book. And I've watched the show, so I know what is coming her way or what she has experienced, and I'm bracing myself because I know I'm not ready for that. I also did like Alice. I think that the way they portrayed her slightly infantile in certain, like, there's sometimes when Quentin like talks and thinks of her and this like she's a child. I'm just like, why, what on earth, why? But yeah, so I read this, I gave this 2 stars. Fingers crossed that I like the other books in this trilogy. Miller, I'm still so thankful that you were so generous and you bought me this. I am so thankful, like so thankful. But I sincerely hope, like you said, that it gets better in the other books, because oh my god, I wanted to strangle him so bad in this book. Moving on to a portal fantasy story that I did enjoy, I read Yes, Every Heart a Doorway by Shannon Maguire. This is the first book in the Wayward Children series. This series basically answers the questions of what happens when it is that you've gone to a magical land and you're returned back to the land of normalcy, of humanity. How do you acclimatize back into society? In basically, Wayward House is this house that was set up to take in these children and basically help them, you know, slowly get used to society so that they can go on and live their lives, even if it is that they do not get the door that took them to their magical world again. And we basically start this book with Nancy, who has returned from the world of the dead, and as such is desperately looking for a door, but her parents do not understand this. They think that, you know, she's lying. They think that so many things are off with her, and they send her to the Wayward House, which in itself is a blessing in disguise for her, because she does meet like-minded children. She does slowly come to terms with who she is, etc., etc. And we meet this kid. I think that my favorite character in this book is still Jack. I love Jack. I want to protect her and her medical equipment, and I need to tear things apart and take apart human bodies and puzzle things out. I love Jack. I adore her. There are so many. This book is so beautiful and so whimsical, but also so powerful, and just speaks to this constant need for us as children to find escape, especially when it is that we exist in a world, in a society that does not understand what makes us, that seeks to change us, that seeks to take away, you know, the things that are part and parcel of who we are. I did enjoy this. I enjoyed this book. I love this book to bits. I love these characters. I love these children. I want to know more about it. And I just love the fact that I thought I was signing up for a oopsie daisy, let them like, you know, get used to society, and then boom, I'm dropped in the middle of a murder mystery, and we're trying to figure out exactly who is, you know, carrying out these killings and exactly what their end game was. And I kid you not, I did not see the villain of the story coming. I did not see the person responsible for this coming, and I'm still like wowed and surprised at the turn that the story took. And now I am invested. I need to get the rest of the books in the series stat so I can like devour them and wait for the rest of the books as they come out through the year. But Shannon Maguire definitely adds risen to my list of authors I need to note and I need to watch, because I need to see if I actually do enjoy her writing. I need to read more books by her, but I have a feeling that she would soon, like, give or take a couple more books, and she'll be one of my auto-buy authors, because I did enjoy this, and the representation in this is amazing. You have Nancy is asexual, Kate is a trans boy. I loved this. It was short, it was sweet, it was poignant, it was punchy. I adored every minute of it. I gave this a 5 stars. 5 brilliant, beautiful stars. Like, yay. Next, I read the next portal fantasy story on my list, and that is 10,000 Doors of January by Alex E. Arrow. I listened to this on audiobook, and it was narrated by the brilliant, the amazing January Lavoie. The way in which she narrates married against the vibrant, brilliant, vivid story that, you know, Alex E. Arrow just gave me this complete, amazing story. In this, we follow January Scala, who is currently the ward of one of the richest men at the time. Our father works for said man and basically helps that man to hunt for treasures. As such, January has spent all her life, you know, living under the, I would say, the, you know, those type of love that basically comes with expectations. That is exactly how January Scala was raised. But in truth, this all, she discovers doors, and she discovers that when she walks to a door that is seemingly in the middle of nowhere, it leads her to another place. And that is basically this amazing story that basically follows January Scala's journey away from the subservient, easily malleable, easily manipulated girl we meet at the beginning to the fearless, world traveling, truth seeking, brilliant young woman that we meet at the end of the book. And we also follow another story in the same book. So like, she's reading a book about another character journeying and traveling and basically seeing the world around. I'm not going to go into details because I don't want to spoil this book for you, because so many of the twists and turns, you know, happen, and it's satisfying from when both stories converge and you find out exactly how that goes. But I did enjoy it. I enjoyed it. I think that the vivid way in which Alex E. Arrow told that story, she does write so beautifully well. She's able to capture the essence, the spirit of that moment. I could definitely feel the depth of the despair and helplessness and the lack of hope that, you know, January was feeling in the book. The way in which Alexi Arrow was able to capture that is frankly mind-blowingly amazing. I am still in awe at that brilliant writing. I would state though that for the longest time there was not much world traveling, so if it is that you pick up this book and you're expecting immediate traveling through worlds, you might not necessarily get that. But later on in the book you do get that. Later on in the book you do also eventually, because see, I was so frustrated with a lot of what January's actions and her inactions in a lot of the book, but then there's something she does say, this moment of self-awareness that she brings up, because January also loves reading books, you know, and she talks about how it is that when she's always read books, she's always been screaming at a character that this is what this character should do, why is this character acting this way, etc., etc., and then she realizes that life is so different for fiction when she is thrust in that same similar position and situation. And I think it's a sense of self-awareness that also hits me, because I'm like, yeah, I kept screaming at her, but I'm like, if I was in a situation, this young girl who has always relied on this man, on this benefactor, who is clearly a person of color at a time when there's such casual racism and discrimination, and she would easily be turning away from so many things, who has learned to depend on this benefactor's good nature and good fortune and kindness. Imagine having to step out of that. How would I react? How would I respond? So I did feel that, and I just felt it was a nod. Like Alice Aro probably knew at that point in time that we were all frustrated with January. I was like, okay, how exactly can I pass across this message? And then she did, and then that was what we got. I enjoyed it. I did give it a 4 stars though. I think that it took so long, for the story to build. I think that it took a while for things to get to the point where I'm like, okay, this is where the story is progressing. I also think that I did kind of guess who the villain was too easily. I'm certain some people might have been like, oh, that was a surprise, but I called it from like the very first start. So I was like, oh my god, I called this villain. And I think that I enjoyed it. I gave it 4 stars. 4 stars is not bad in my book. It was a good book. It was not, oh my god, it would haunt me for like forever, but it was a good book. It was an amazing book, and I definitely will reread it again sometime soon. I want to reread it physically and be able to follow it while I'm once again listening to it on audiobook, because that audiobook was fantastic. Then I read, yes, A Very Large Expanse of Sea by Tara Maffey. This is my first Tara Maffey book. I love this. I love this book so much. I love this. Being able to experience the world with Shirin, being able to see exactly what she's experiencing, the casual Islamophobia and racism that was her everyday life. I was so angry alongside her. And like you could legit, like the very first time when we start this book and a teacher basically tries to walk out of the class because he seemingly believes that she walked into the wrong class because it's advanced English, and someone who is an hijabi, with a name like Shirin could not possibly be in an advanced English class. And I'm just like, what the? And like that was my constant refrain throughout this entire book. What the? Knowing that this was in a way also autobiographical for Tara Maffey, like it just hits right. You can see like this is an experience, especially in a post 9/11 world. I wanted to shout, I wanted to scream, but at the same time seeing Shirin like refuse to let this casual racism, this casual Islamophobia keep her from pursuing her dreams. She wants to break down. She wants to have an experience. She's counting the days until she leaves this high school, and while she's counting the days, she meets this sweet boy with gorgeous eyes called Ocean, and they fall in love. And then there's the drama that arises as a result of that, because it's the all-American boy, is the star of the school, and there she is, this hijabi that they had seemingly ignored until she seemingly started dating their star boy, and like all the nastiness and ugliness that was birthed as a result of that. And then like I don't want to go into details because I don't want to spoil, because there's something, then there's this 180-degree change that was brought on by something else, and just being able to see just how fickle humanity is, and just how quickly we're able to villainize people and then turn them into heroes in the next moment, in itself was just, it was as shocking and jarring to me as it was to Shirin, but also something I could relate to because I had seen it in my own life, and I was just in awe. But I enjoyed this. I gave this a 5 stars. I think it was magnificent. I think it was brilliant. I know someone was complaining, I think I can't remember, I'm trying to remember who it was. I was talking about how there was so much romance underneath this, and I think in itself that's just a disservice. I think that Tara Maffey wanted to capture who Shirin was, from her faith, to her being a hijabi, to her loving breakdancing, to her finding this boy that she liked. And I think that Tara Maffey was able to capture all these facets of Shirin in this book, and it was so short. I wanted more. I think they said that this is going to be adapted into a movie, and I cannot wait, because this was such a blast to read, and I enjoyed it. So definitely 5-star read. I cannot wait to read it again. I cannot wait to dive into other Tara Maffey books. I know it's probably not going to the Shatter Me series is a dystopian novel, with fantasy elements. So of course it's not going to be like this contemporary book, but I definitely think that this book has put Tara Maffey on my radar for me, and I cannot wait to keep reading more of her books. So yeah, A Very Large Expanse of Sea by Tara Maffey, 5 stars, loved it. And then there's the last book I read in April, which is The Hating Game by Sally Thorne. This book is my dream enemies to lovers, hate to love, because it captures it so well. I think a lot of people do not understand the appeal of enemies to lovers, because people go, it's abusive and this. I'm like, no, like for a true enemies to lovers book, there has to be mutual respect. You have to have these characters who cannot stand each other, but part of that is burning the fact that they respect, they understand the power the other person holds, they understand the amazingness of this other person, and they just hate this person, you know, things like that. And so you have these two co-workers who are both responsible, who are both damn good at what they do, and who cannot stand each other because of a chance meeting went wrong, and them not really understanding what they meant to the other person and misinterpreting. Like, there was so many missed signals and misinterpretation of intentions, which is also something I really do enjoy in my enemies to lovers. So this was just, it was feeding me well, it fed me well. I give this a 5 stars. I love this. I cannot wait to read other books by Readathon to see if she's able to capture this so well for me, because Lucinda and Joshua's relationship in this book, like, oh my god, they had the they had the hatred. It was a fire burning underneath their skin, and then you realize that all that emotion is not actually hatred, and then there's the sexual chemistry, and when they do get together there's fireworks. Although I would state though that I wanted more sex, but that is just me personally, you know. What we got was still hot, and there was, oh my god, there is this dressing down scene that we got at the end of this book. All hail the power of Lucinda, who knows how to tear apart the ego. Oh my god, like that. I was that server, that waiter in the room that was like, please, it is on the house. That was better than any daytime drama, because that washing down, she washed. That was what they call putting people in their place, and it was so well earned. I was in love. I also appreciated the fact that there was no forced burn out of a sudden need to just cause our characters to separate and have that moment of realization. Like, that drama did not arise. I was praying to all the gods that would listen that this book will not go in that stereotypical direction, and I don't know why I was thinking that, because nothing about this book was stereotypical, and of course we did not get this forced drama, forced separation brought into this book. So it was, all in all, it was just a perfect reading experience for me. I enjoyed it. I loved it. I cannot wait to read 99% Mine to see if I would enjoy that as well. But yeah, this was lovely. This was great. This was amazing for me. But those were the 13 books I read in April. Let me know, what are some books you read in April, some 5-star books you read in April that you would absolutely recommend. I want to put it down in my TBR list. I have a notebook where I write all these recommendations, so that when it's time for me to buy books, I can turn to them. So just drop them down in the comments down below so I can go check them out. If you like this video, please do not forget to give it a big thumbs up. Check out my other videos. Subscribe if you want to, and if you do decide to subscribe, please click on that notification bell so you can know the minute I have a new video go up, because now I make new videos every Wednesdays and Saturdays, and I might occasionally throw in a new video too, like in between the week. So it's best for you to have the notification on so you can know whenever I have a new video go up. But yeah, that is this video. I hope you liked it. I will see you soon. Until next time, stay passionate, love books, love yourself. Bye.